Hi, Joe here from Shutter Speak Photography. Very nice to see your smiling face again here on YouTube. So today we are going to take a look at the Nikon Z6III camera. We're going to be taking an in-depth look at this camera. It's Nikon's latest addition to the full-frame Z series mirrorless lineup, and this camera brings several significant updates over its predecessor, the Z6II. And it incorporates some of the features from our higher-end Z8 and Z9 cameras as well. We're going to take a look at specifications, performance, autofocus capabilities, video features, the shortcomings, and its overall usability to determine whether or not this camera is right for you. So first, let's take a look at design and build. Okay, so the Nikon Z6III camera follows the familiar ergonomic design that Nikon users have come to expect over the years. The body is slightly larger than the Z6II. Now in terms of height, they're almost identical. But in terms of width, you're going to notice that the grip is definitely bigger on the Z6III and the body is bigger. But quite honestly, walking around, carrying this camera, shooting with it, you really don't notice it. And the grip actually feels a little bit better because it is a little bit wider. It fits my hand pretty nicely. Okay, so because it is lightweight and comfortable, it's a great choice for walking around or tripod shooting for sure. The grip is comfortable and the camera maintains the consistent, well-placed buttons and dials. But there is one drawback on this design, and you wouldn't think it, but it is this neck strap hanger right there. So this hanger actually interferes with the opening and closing of the door here. And you can see it actually is stopped. So what should happen is it should open up all the way like this one does. You see the strap hanger is not in the way. This one, strap does get in the way and you have to pull this up. I would recommend not putting this eye hook on if you don't need it. Just use something like a black rabbit strap connected to the bottom and avoid that problem altogether because it's minor, but it's annoying. Okay, aside from that, build quality, fantastic, okay? It's fully weather sealed and it's durable enough for outdoor shooting and shooting in challenging conditions. So in terms of build, I'd give it an excellent, except for that little annoyance right there. Okay, in terms of sensor, okay, comparing the Z6II sensor to the Z6III sensor, the Z6III is the first camera in its class to feature a partially stacked 24.5 megapixel sensor, offering a 3.5 times faster readout speed than the predecessor, the Z6II. So why is this important? This helps reduce rolling shutter effects and improves overall responsiveness and allows for faster continuous shooting. So if you don't know what rolling shutter is, that is when a camera is shooting using its electronic shutter, not its mechanical, the electronic, and an object actually moves faster than the shutter does, which puts objects in weird places. So you might see an object that should be solid possibly torn in half and in two different places in an image. That's an effect of rolling shutter. Something in particular that you might commonly see this in would be maybe a propeller of an airplane. If you've ever taken a picture with your cell phone of an airplane propeller, you may notice that it's distorted and broken up into pieces. Okay, so that's great though. So nice improvement with the sensor, and that really is in part to the Expeed 7 sensor that is built into this camera, which started out with the Z9. So the Expeed 7, the first camera that was in was the Z9. It got handed down to the 8 and is now in the Z6III. Your Z6III, yes, your Z6II had dual Expeed 6 processors, and the Z6, the prior, had a single Expeed 6 processor. Okay, let's talk a little bit about autofocus. So autofocus is one of the biggest improvements in the Z6III, and it borrows that autofocus system from the Nikon Z8 and the Nikon Z9. So it features deep learning AI, powered subject detection, and improved 3D tracking. And the camera can recognize and track people, animals, and vehicles with very impressive accuracy. So low light autofocus is also improved, allowing for better focusing in challenging conditions. However, one notable omission is the lack of a dedicated bird detection feature in autofocus. So while birds can still be tracked using the standard animal detection mode, this feature lags behind some of the other cameras in the Z family that actually have bird tracking. For example, the Z9 initially had bird tracking. So the Z6III comes with the tracking features of the original shipping version of the Z9 before it was upgraded with the later firmware that included things like plane and bird detection. So it has plane detection, by the way, but it doesn't have bird detection. And this doesn't mean that Nikon can't or won't add this in the future. They certainly could, but the bottom line is you don't buy a camera based on what it could have, buy it based on what it currently does have, and currently it does not have that. And I'm not saying you shouldn't buy it, but it does shoot birds very, very well, but it just doesn't have that dedicated feature like some of the other cameras do. All right, video. Let's talk a little bit about video of our Z6III. So, video creators, you're going to be very happy. The Z6III introduces some significant enhancements in video. It can record 6K, 60 frames per second progressive RAW internally, and 4K up to 120 frames per second. Okay, the camera supports multiple codecs, including H.265, ProRes 422HQ, and 12-bit N-Log and ProRes RAW externally. So these features make it an excellent option for high-quality video recording with more flexibility in post-production. However, it does not feature oversampled 6K to 4K recording, which could have provided additional sharpness in standard 4K output. But in terms of video shooter, it is a solid competitor. So some really nice improvements there. Next thing we got to talk about is the Viewfinder. Now, I wish that there was a way that I could show you the Viewfinder, but unfortunately when you connect to these cameras, there's no way to record the actual Viewfinder, only the output through HDMI. But this camera, the Z6III, does have the best viewfinder of any Nikon Z camera to date and the brightest. So that is a significant improvement there. It's actually a standout feature of the Z6III. It boasts a 5.7 million dot OLED display with a peak brightness of 4,000 nits, making it one of the brightest EVFs available, and it ensures clear visibility even in bright outdoor conditions. So by way of comparison, typically I believe an iPhone screen is 1,000 nits at its brightest. This is 4,000 in the Viewfinder. So even if you're shooting in absolute broad daylight, you're going to have a nice, clear, bright Viewfinder. Okay, so that's fantastic. And the rear LCD screen is a 3.2-inch, 2.1 million dot touchscreen with a tilting design. And while this improves on usability for low light and angle shots, unfortunately, it doesn't feature a fully articulating mechanism, which may disappoint some vloggers and content creators. So we take a look at our Z6 II. That was what you got, right? So, and that's nice. The 3, here it is. So the 3 can tilt and it can twist around, but it's a little bit short of 180 degrees, but actually close enough, I gotta be honest with you, close enough that it really shouldn't matter. You should be able to get a real nice view of this from the front. Again, it's not a full 180 degrees, but it is super close. Okay, connectivity and settings. So the Z6III offers upgraded connectivity. So it features some of the features borrowed from the Z9. It supports FTP transfer, which is nice, ad hoc and infrastructure Wi-Fi, USB dongle Ethernet connections, And that makes it a really solid choice for anyone with a professional workflow. Okay, in terms of storage, the camera features dual card slots, a CF Express Type B, and one UHS 2 SD. So while that's not as great as having two CF Express slots, that's the same as what we had here in our Z6II, right? You have a CF Express and an SD card slot as the backup. So yeah, CF Express dual would have been preferable, but you know what? Again, the system seems to, work really, really well. So I really don't have any complaints about it. Image stabilization. Okay, the Z6III features an improved in-body image stabilization, or IBIS. Okay, and it's rated for up to 8 stops of compensation. This is particularly beneficial for handheld shooting in low light. And additional features include pixel shift shooting, which is in the Z8, not in the Z6II, and strangely not in the Z9, which is a mystery that only Nikon could possibly answer. Okay, so that's real nice. So pixel shift shooting, in case you don't know what it is, that allows you to shoot ultra high resolution images. However, it is tripod only of something not moving. Okay, you do not take pixel shift of anything moving because it's like, 15 plus images, and if there's even slight movement, it's just going to be a mess of an image. But it's wonderful for things like architecture and really anything that's not going to move that you want a super high res image of. Okay, so that's something nice. I like that personally, and it's got an expanded picture control system that provides some nice customization over color files and tonality. Personally, I don't use things like that. I'd rather do it in a program like Lightroom. But if you like to do things like that in camera, you certainly have a pretty wide variety of options with the Z6III. All right, let's talk about battery life and power. Okay, the battery remains similar to the Z6II. It is an EN-EL15C battery, rated for approximately 390 shots per charge. And that's what it's rated for. I really don't believe that this camera is limited to 390 shots. You'll probably get vastly more than that. With the original Z6, I was shooting close to 1,000 on a single battery. So don't let those numbers fool you. You'll shoot vastly more than 390, with a full charged battery. But at any rate, moving on from that, it does take USB-C power delivery for continuous operation, which is nice. And, if you were going to do extended video recording sessions or a lot of high-speed bursts, maybe you would want to consider connecting it to an external USB-C battery pack, which you could do with this camera, and that's a nice thing to have. All right, so let's go over some of the shortcomings. Now, these are some things that we have already discussed, but I'm going to go over them for you anyway. So, rolling shutter and electronic shutter. Despite the faster sensor readout, rolling shutter effects could still possibly be present with this shutter, especially in something very fast moving, helicopter, blade, or an airplane propeller. Okay, so it is significantly faster than the Z6II, but the Z8 is even significantly faster than the Z6III, so the Z6III really sits square in the middle. But rolling shutter isn't something that I would expect that you're going to be worried about unless you are shooting with the electronic shutter only and you're shooting something super fast moving. Okay, so next up, lack of bird autofocus detection. We mentioned that, and if you're a wildlife or bird photographer specifically, you may be a little disappointed in that, and maybe you want to opt up for a different model like a Z8 or a Z9. However, it's nothing that they can't add. I'm not saying that they will, though. And again, buy the camera for what it has, not what it might have, right? The strap hanger placement, that is definitely a downside. It's minor, but it is annoying. And that limited 6K recording, again, 6K recording available only in RAW formats, and there's no oversampling 6K to 4K as we mentioned. So that's a little bit disappointing, but in terms of video for most people and vloggers and content creators, this is more than enough camera for you. Again, that articulating LCD, it makes it all the way around, not quite 180, but again, I think it's close enough that I'm not really gonna take a point off, if you will, for that articulating viewfinder. I think it's close enough. And would we like to have seen dual compact flash cards in here? Yes, but again, all the other Z cameras operate the same way, and including our Z8. So again, you can't take points off for that. The only camera that does have the dual CF Express cards is the Z9. So I won't detract any points for that. I still think it's a great choice. So compared to the Z6II, the Z6III offers a significant performance boost, particularly in autofocus, video capabilities, and overall speed. It incorporates many of the features from the high-end Z8 and Z9, and it still maintains its compact form factor. For hybrid shooters looking for strong stills and video performance without the cost or the size of the Z8, the Z6III is a compelling choice. Okay, if you for some reason needed that dual CF Express card slot, maybe you want to consider the Z9 because that's really your only other choice. In terms of some of the high-end features that we see in this camera, again, we do have pixel shift shooting that's in the Z8. It has pre-release capture, by the way, which can be done in, I believe, 30, 60, and 120 frames per second. You can shoot 30 frames per second with electronic shutter, 60 and up to 120 with electronic shutter, JPEG only, 14 frames per second in RAW with the mechanical shutter. Overall, it's a great camera. It's a great improvement. It's a little bit bigger, but I don't consider that a drawback. I might consider that a strength because of the features that you're getting. It feels great in the hand. It's solid build. It's a nice camera. I think Nikon did a great job with this. And, in this case, maybe third time's the charm. So, hey, it's up to you. But my thoughts on this is it's a great camera and it's not going to disappoint you. So, hey, I appreciate you watching all of this, and if anything in this video helps you out, please help me out by hitting like, subscribe, and by all means, leave me a comment because I love to hear from you guys. I like to hear what you're thinking. I'd especially like to hear what you're thinking about this camera, and I always try to answer as best I can. So without you, there is no channel, so thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one, YouTube. Bye-bye.